And then it got super fascinating, and very suddenly at that. Now, if you've been listening to what the Kenya Kwanza government has been saying, you will have already been convinced, and I mean listening to what they're saying and believing everything they're saying. You'd now be convinced that this Mandamano, this Raila Odinga Azimio initiative for electoral justice is going to go nowhere. Indeed, at one point, Ruto told Kenyans that he's going to provide security. They can have as many demonstrations as they want. They can do what they want, but it will change nothing. Many Kenyans believed that. So explain to me the latest where the Kenya government is seeking sanctions against Raila Odinga and key Azimio leaders. Yeah, we're talking about travel bans, being banned from going to certain Western countries. And these bans often include members of the families of the affected people. Of course, they've been very effective in the past. So explain to me, if what Azimio is doing is of no consequence, haifanyi kitu, it is going nowhere, why would the Kenya Kwanza chaps seek help from foreigners? It's help for what? Because you ask for help when you have a problem. Isn't that correct? You do not ask for help when you don't have any problem. And so, clearly this tells us, ignore everything you've heard from the Kenya Kwanza government in the past. The truth is, they are not sleeping. The Kenya Kwanza government is in deep crisis. And that, my friends, is now official. Now, of course, it doesn't surprise some of us, but that is for the sake of those who analyze politics. Shallow. Those who are believing Raila is wasting his time. What is he doing? What is this? This is a train headed to nowhere. That was for the sake of those people. Now, let's analyze this. In the past, this thing of sanctions has been super effective. What has happened is that, of course, initially those affected come out with very strongly worded statements. The US is not heaven. Kwa wazungu si binguni, so I don't care. I am not affected in any way. And then what do those individuals do next? Wanatuliza boli. They pick up the phone and call a few people. You know, hii maneno tunaweza kumaliza. Now my question is, do you think, because I know knowledge of the character of a man called Raila Odinga these days is extremely limited. So I need to ask you this. Do you think this thing will slow down Raila Odinga and Azimio? Hebu niambie. Do you think it will have any effect on what Kenyans are seeking, which is their right, electoral justice? Because what should be so difficult about opening the servers at the IEBC? What should be so difficult? If you really won the elections, what should be so difficult proving that you actually won the elections? Call a rally, where Azimio have called theirs. And let's see your supporters. Simple. Hold countrywide rallies to prove how popular you are. To counter the countrywide rallies of Azimio. That's how the political game is played. But when we hear only political leaders talking, a select few, and then the people on the ground, who are supposed to be your supporters, wamenyamaza kama mtungi ya maji, we get worried. And I'm talking about those of us who still think that some certain people won the elections. I'm not talking about myself. Because seriously, if we can have a legal leader who was not actually elected by the majority of Kenyans, hiyo itapeleka nchi wapi? You tell me. I know it worked during the Moi days, the final Moi days, his last 2 terms. I know it worked. But most people are ignoring the consequences. I mean, Moi just scraped through. And that was the old constitution. And just to give you one example of the dire consequences of such a situation, KANU had to spend so much money. KANU had to print money. And the effects of that time in Kenyan history are still being felt today. Before this thing started in 1992, a loaf of bread used to cost less than 4 shillings. I remember during my school days, our pocket money was 5 bob, 5 shillings. I would go to the school tuck shop, buy a soda and a half loaf of bread and get change. I kid you not. But when some people were forced to print money so as to stay in power, we are still suffering today. And our children will suffer because of that. So, that's not a direction Kenyans want to go. Let us make sure that the legal president was actually elected by the people, by the vast majority of Kenyans. What should be so hard about that? If somebody won genuinely, what should be so difficult? Please educate me. And there's another problem many Kenyans don't see. And it is simple, basic human nature. If people did not elect you, what business do you have pleasing those people? None. After all, you didn't elect me, so I can do what I want. It's human nature. But if people elected you, you become sensitive. You know, these are the people who put me into office. I cannot let them down. They put me into office because of 1, 2, 3. I must fulfill that. But if those people did not elect you, and then they start telling you, ulituambia ukiweka Biblia chini, after being sworn in, this and that will happen. When people start telling you that, what do you think is going on at the back of your mind? They should shut up. They didn't elect me. What are they telling me? Wanyamaze, wajipatie shuli huko. They didn't elect me. The way I got into power had nothing to do with those people. They didn't elect me. Kwa hivyo wanyamaze. In my opinion, if the government goes ahead with these sanctions against Raila Odinga and other key Azimio leaders, it will backfire very badly. Because what will happen is that it's going to add strength to Azimio. Indeed, already the mere announcement, the mere suggestion that that is what is going to happen, has added a lot of momentum to Azimio. Now, I know some of you don't know what I'm talking about. You see, in politics, there's something called public opinion and public outcry. Okay? And these things are deadly to any politician, because they have a certain momentum, a political momentum, that has swept very many people away. Pop! Just like that. Because the first thing this news has done, being leaked to the press, is that it has told Kenyans, oh, kumbe what Baba is doing is working. Ebu turudi kazi. Mimi nilikuwa give up. Hii kitu nilikuwa naona haifanyi. Kumbe nafanya. Ay. I'm sure you get my drift. And then, of course, there are the things that Azimio is campaigning for. Problems that are facing Kenyans right now. Yeah, the high price of food, the high price of fuel, etc., etc. Those things Azimio are talking about are in the hearts of Kenyans. And so, when people hear that the people who are talking their language are about to be disciplined with sanctions to foreign countries, etc., etc., what do you think the people start feeling? If they're angry, Do you think they'll get less angry or more angry? That is what I'm calling momentum. Deadly. Bottom line, wrong move. Yeah, I don't know what advises the UDA government. I just don't know. Yeah, because there are certain things they should not do, and there are certain things they should do that they should have done. Yeah, to slow down this momentum, this pressure from Azimio. And I know some Azimio supporters are now going to accuse me of giving the government ideas. But let's just go for it. Now, if for instance the government had decided to return subsidies to basic food items the way they were during Uhuru's administration, and then also subsidies on fuel, and they had moved quickly, done it almost immediately, what impact would that have had? In my opinion, very major. Yeah, people would have said, hold on a minute, this government can actually do things for us. Ebu relax, Raila ebu ngoja kidogo tuone hawa watu watafanya nini. Something like that. But instead, how has the government reacted? Wamekaa ngumu. They have responded with arrogance. We are not going to deal with subsidies again. Forget it. Who is Azimio? Nothing like that. Now. You know, a government is not a private company as some people have been telling us. And neither is it a public enterprise. It isn't. You are dealing with people and emotions. This is politics. And you have to play the game according to the rules. Yeah, rules of human nature, which you cannot change. You cannot reinvent the wheel. Yeah. So I repeat again, I have no idea who is advising the government. You know, this has happened before in Kenya. Yeah. Oh yes, I know you don't believe it. In 1991, the pressure for a return to multi-party politics for the country called Kenya had come to a climax. It was too much. KANU were feeling the heat, even though they were talking arrogantly, the way we hear the government talking today. And then Moi made a move, a master stroke. He quickly moved to repeal the infamous Section 2A in the old constitution, which returned the country back to multi-party politics. Do you know what happened? You could almost feel the pressure easing, like a balloon going. And Moi bought himself extra time. Indeed, in my opinion, Moi bought himself 10 more years as president of Kenya. 10, not 1. Okay? By making a simple, wise move. And it took everybody by surprise. Even KANU sycophants couldn't believe. In fact, it became a Churchill show. It was comical. Because there was a meeting at Kasarani, and of course, you know the president talks last. So the initial speakers were talking the old language. Section 2A, we will never repeal it. Never, forever. Kenya will remain a one-party state. KANU will rule for 1,000 years, etc., etc. And then when Moi stood up, he said, we're going to repeal this thing. And then a few moments later, the KANU sycophants were out there all over the place. We're repelling Section 2A. Now you start wondering, see, this is the man who was swearing just a few minutes ago. This thing will never be changed. Now he has changed the story. Which story should I believe? What he said in his speech or what he's saying now? Or maybe I should not believe either of them. It was very comical. But Moi's master stroke worked because Moi understood politics. Indeed, he was a professor of politics. Moi understood that politics and human emotion are co-joined twins. They're joined at the hip. And the wrong move is to try and provoke people and to provoke people's emotions. You will never go anywhere with that in politics. Never ever. By showing people you're a tough guy and talking against what they want, oh, you will never go anywhere. Not in 100 years. Not in 1,000 years. So, shall I say, let the show begin? Because what is going to happen next is very predictable. Extremely predictable. And I'm sure if you sit down and put all this together, you'll agree with me. And you will know what is going to happen next. But for avoidance of doubt, let me spell it out. From this point going forward, it will be all downhill for the government. Oh yes. Hey, there's no other play here left. It's just going to be downhill. Downhill all the way. Now, even as we say that, there's some very worrying things in the horizon. Yesterday, I had an opportunity to speak to a prayer warrior, one of the gallant Kenyans, very spiritual, who are constantly praying for our country, fighting spiritual battles on behalf of the country called Kenya. And what they had to say to me, he worried me a lot, because it confirmed the worst. It confirmed the contents in my latest Weekly Intelligence Briefings, number 99. Now we have a very special offer to celebrate the Kumekucha shots, the introduction of the Kumekucha shots. You can see details on your screen right now. Please take full advantage of it because we're in the last few hours. Back to what I was saying. What she had to say worried me a lot. Despite the latest Weekly Intelligence Briefing number 99, and what I said there, it still worried me. Why? Because at the back of my mind, I did not want to believe what my analysis is telling me. At the back of my mind, I was hoping against all hope that things will go differently and that I will be proved wrong. I know many of you will not believe, and it doesn't really matter because I talk from my heart. The truth is, many times in this game, I have wanted to be proved wrong. Because you can be proved right, and the consequences of it are dire. Let me give you a very quick example, which I see on our Kenyan roads. And it is something which I just can't understand. You see somebody driving on the wrong side of the road. This is just a hypothetical example, yeah, but really it expresses what I'm trying to say. And as a driver, what do? You don't slow down. You continue speeding. I'm right. This person is driving on the wrong side of the road. I'm going to prove it to them. And what happens next? Head-on collision. You get injured. Or maybe you're proved so right that you end up dead right. Dead and right. There's a spirit amongst Kenyans these days, sijui ilitoka wapi, where people are so determined that I must be right. I must be proved correct. Must! Lazima! And they don't look at the bigger picture. They don't realize that sometimes it is better to be proved wrong. Even if people mock you and they make fun of you, in your heart you know it is a better situation. It is a better scenario than what I thought it would be. I'm so glad I was wrong. I think somebody has given them the wrong idea that geniuses are always right. It's not true. Read the story of the person who discovered the light bulb. Yeah? And read how many times they were wrong before they were right. And they actually invented the thing. And then you'll know what I'm talking about. Now, before I go, I can't resist a headline I saw in a Weekly Intelligence Briefings email community, where somebody was saying, "Iyo moto iko sawa." They're of course referring on the pressure that is mounting against the government, and we move forward steadily. Because hiyo moto iko sawa, itafanya kazi. What? Some Kenyans are very creative. But you see, we come back to human nature. Millions of Kenyans are suffering. Millions of Kenyans want a better Kenya. Millions of Kenyans believe that a better Kenya is possible. Now, how do you stop that? How do you stop an idea whose time it is? How? Hey, until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.